Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of Pointing to the Cross. And today's topic is no time to bail. No time to bail. And if you're watching the news and you're thinking about everything that's going on in our world and our country, I tell you, sometimes all the sensationalism and everything that's going on can make things rise up in you. But I can tell you that it's no time to bail on what's godly, on what's Christ-centered, on what's filled with Christ's love. It's an endurance race. And Paul kind of gives us that terminology here in Hebrews chapter 12. In verse 12 and 13, he says, "Therefore strengthen the hands which hang down, and the feeble knees, and make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be dislocated, but rather be healed." I would say that our country right now has been lamed, and we've got a decision to make. Are we going to bring healing to our nation through the love of Jesus Christ, or are we going to break down? And Paul's using the imagery here of a race. And he's talking about an endurance race. And he says, strengthen the hands which hang down. He's talking about good running form, right? So when we get tired and we're running, our hands begin to drop. And sometimes they flop around, And what those things, that does is slows us down. And then he says, and the feeble knees. What happens when you're running? Your knees, they begin to get weak. And it feels like every step you take, you may go down. And he says, strengthen those knees, right? So what happens when you do that? How can you do that? Well, in running, they call it the second wind, right? You feel like your heart's going to explode. You feel like everything in you is going to just fall apart. And then all of a sudden you cross this threshold that you didn't know you had. And then the pain goes away and you can just run and run and run and run. Well, the threshold we need to cross is God's grace. And to know that God's grace can empower us to do anything, to run as long as we need to love as long as we need to serve as long as we need to serve. And then in the next verse he says, make straight paths for your feet, right? Keeping your eyes on the prize, not looking around, letting your head wobble around while you run, because that just gets you off balance. It can make you fall. It can make you go by the wayside. Paul's saying stay in the race. And as Christians, we've got to stay in the race right now, because the only thing that can bring people together is the love of Christ. And that's possible only through the grace that He dispenses through the preaching and the teaching of the gospel. So this is no time to bail on the gospel. This is no time to bail on Jesus Christ. This is no time to bail on loving our neighbors. This is the time that we need to secure our hands and take care of our feeble knees and keep our path straight, knowing that the healing that we desire in our country can only come from one source: Jesus Christ. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.